Hello everyone, this is Lucía Lird and my partner Valeria Robles.
Hello.
Today we are going to be talking to you about classroom interventions for students with anxiety. So first, what is anxiety? Anxiety is usually described as a tendency to worry about a range of negative possibilities and always thinking that something bad is going to happen. It is important to mention that it has a functional, social, and emotional impact on the person. And also important, everyone has a feeling of anxiety at some point in their life. It is normal to feel anxious before a big exam, for example. However, it only becomes a problem when the person has trouble controlling their anxious thoughts and it affects their daily life.
Clinical characteristics. There's a repeated and extensive worry about daily things in their lives, such as finances, relationships, family, health, academic performance, and many others. Also, anxious people tend to seek reassurance from the ones they trust when they are feeling anxious. Avoidance is another characteristic because anxious people tend to avoid situations that they don't know or may have a negative outcome. Irritability, because it makes them frustrated that they cannot control their own thoughts and feelings. And lastly, physical symptoms, such as headaches, stomach aches, dizziness, difficulty to breathe, chest pains, and others. Types of anxiety disorders. There's the generalized anxiety, separation anxiety, social phobia, panic disorder, and specific phobias.
Now we're going to present to you some classroom recommendations you can use for your anxious students. First, there is the seating within the classroom. Because anxious students usually struggle with the fear that they will get in trouble, a good technique is to sit them away from the loud kids. This way, it allows them to concentrate better in class and their anxiety lessens.
Following directions. Anxious students may worry about not getting a direction right, either from being distracted or getting confused. So what you can do is to signalize the class first before giving a direction, for example, with using flashing lights or clapping your hands. And also, when possible, always try to have the directions written down. Classroom participation. Anxious students have a fear of being embarrassed, so participating in class can be a struggle. What you can do as a teacher is to determine the student's comfort with closed questions, such as yes and no, or questions that involve opinions, and start with the one that the student is more comfortable with. And also you can try to signalize the student first to let them know that his turn is coming so that they are prepared.
Then, when it comes to classroom presentations, anxious students usually have a difficult time with oral reports, so it is good to consider alternatives for them, such as allow them to present to you alone after class when there is no pressure of being embarrassed in front of the classmates, or you can also allow them to record a video at home where they feel comfortable. Answering the questions at the board can be really stressful because there is a fear of getting embarrassed in front of a whole class if they get the answer wrong. So it is good to consider having the child exempt from going up to the board until they feel ready. Instead, a good preparation is to have them go up to the board but write down facts such as the date or what city they live in.
Testing conditions. Exams can be a difficult task for any student, but especially for the ones with anxiety because they may worry about not being able to finish their exams on time. So what you can do is to provide them with extra time for their exams. And also, if you notice that the student gets distracted, you could try to test them in a different location, a quiet room, for example, away from the other students, so that their anxiety doesn't get worse. Unstructured activities such as lunchroom or playtime can be stressful for anxious students because they worry about being rejected by their peers. So what you can do as a teacher is to make sure that your students create a bond inside the classroom. And you can do that by, for example, when working on a group project, don't always let them choose their own partners. Sometimes apply techniques of random pairing so that the class interacts with everyone and no student is left out.
Then there is also the option of having a safe person at school, because someone who understands the child's worries and anxieties can make the difference between the kid staying at home and going to school. This is a point person for the student to check in with for a few minutes, so their anxiety can lessen. This person can be the principal, another teacher, the school psychologist, or anyone else at school. And finally, there is the cool down path. When pressure builds, it can be too much for anxious children. So it is good to allow them to leave the situation for a few moments, allow them to clear their heads, breathe in some fresh air, wash their faces, and then they can return to the situation.
Now you can see some useful resources if you want to find out more about the topic. Classroom accommodations for anxiety, types of anxiety in children, and top 10 signs of student anxiety in the classroom. That was all for our presentation about classroom accommodations for students with anxiety. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope that you find the information provided helpful.
Thank you, everyone.